Dungeon crawling games are a lot of fun. You have the obvious picks like the Diablo series to find that fun, loot-driven gameplay, but there are others that are definitely worth your time as well. Titan Quest has resurfaced with console ports, and it provides a fun, Greek-based Diablo 2-like experience. Victor Vran is an indie-developed action RPG that provides a unique weapon system where skills are attached to weapons, creating a good combat flow. These games provide addictive gameplay because they provide continuous rewards for the player. You will always feel like you're earning something new and bettering your character through level ups and new equipment. The variety comes from the character classes and the builds that you can make, along with the assortment of skills you have to use against many enemies. The stories are not usually the focus of these games, but they help to flesh out the world you're in. Shadows Awakening is a new dungeon crawling single-player game that puts the focus on combat and puzzle solving. There's a wide variety of characters you'll get to control, and the aim is to create a memorable single-player action RPG experience. So let's find out if it's worth your time. Shadows Awakening starts out by having a mysterious figure summon a demon. After the summoning, the demon is asked to choose a host. This is where you'll get to choose between 3 different character classes. I went with the mage, and your interactions may change depending on who you pick. The character you pick to pair yourself with has their own background and history, and they're also dead, so with the mage, they continually use language and terms that aren't currently used within the world right now. And what's interesting is that it kind of provides this sense of place within the environment where the mage is trying to relearn the world it knew, and then at the same time, you're a new person going into the game, the player, so you're kind of learning with your character. The story does provide a good backdrop to the action. It isn't the most emotional adventure, but rather a good fantasy tale that has you moving through different lands. The highlight of the story for me was when you entered into a new area and you're treated to a cutscene that gave you some intel on the upcoming area, along with the mission at hand.
Perched atop an ancient stone plateau, amidst the red sands of the Outlands, lies the city of Thole. Centuries ago, it was a major garrison for the Gerulian Empire, and there may even have been a settlement prior to this era. These days, Thole is a city of thieves and outcasts. Fugitives of all kinds come here to avoid complications in neighboring nations. Not everyone in Thole has a price upon his head, but no one who dwells here is innocent. The Guild of Steel like to call themselves mercenaries, protecting the few caravans that ply their trade across the desert.
These are narrated well and act as a nice preview into the area. They help to build character and invoke a sense of interest within the area. You'll often find yourself speaking to other characters to complete your objectives. These are other situations of the player gathering story from the game. Being able to speak to these characters for side missions helps to kind of make these places feel more lived in.
Where do you want these rather unpleasant spider carcasses?
I'll take those. I believe 50 was the agreed price.
What are you going to do with those?
Probably best not to ask. Although I would avoid the soup kitchen tomorrow, milady. Of course, the infestation will continue as long as the spiders can reach Thole.
Side quests are most definitely worth completing as they provide you with a good amount of experience points, and those level ups will help you with your main missions, especially when you get to some of the tougher boss fights. While most of what I've shown and described may seem very much in line with these types of games, Shadows does try to change things up by providing its own spin on the genre. In Shadows, you'll have access to your demon and up to 3 different other characters, and you can control them all on the fly and switch them as you please. This is pretty unique in that the demon can see into the Shadow Realm while your other characters provide some insight into the mortal realm. As the demon, you'll have your own enemies to contend with, and in many cases cannot attack enemies within the mortal realm. Though you may not be able to damage a certain enemy, you may be able to use an ability on them to assist yourself in these fights. A useful move that you get early on with the demon is able to freeze someone, and it stops all enemies within their tracks. So you can use this as the demon to be able to freeze an enemy, and though no damage will be able to come upon them, you can switch back to one of your mortal characters and attack the frozen enemy. Within the Shadow Realm, you'll find hidden items and treasures, and at times side quests. You may find the ghost of someone that needs assistance for you to be able to help them, and then they'll give you some nice rewards. The Mortal Realm works very similar to any action RPG you've played. Combat encounters are rather fun too. Attacking enemies feels good whether you're using a sword, staff, or any type of magical spell. Since you have access to many different characters, there's a good amount of variety to tackle in combat. You'll find yourself making builds out of characters for specific purposes to aid you in fighting. I focused on making a mage my main character, and used this new archer character that I found in the beginning of the game to be able to help me out with ranged attacks, and also they had useful trap abilities to be able to hit multiple enemies. Each of the characters can equip a small variety of different skills that can be used in combat. You can only have 3 equipped at one time, so this makes you consider how you want to build your party. Since switching is very easy and quick, you're encouraged to continually mix and match your characters to find the best style you can. This is where the game really sets itself apart from other action RPGs. The character switching is used in navigating the environments as well. A bridge may be out in the mortal world, but you can switch to the Shadow Realm and then cross it. And in this case, you can see many of these situations in the puzzles. You'll find yourself using these characters as different tools that you'll need for different situations. You turn into an army of one, essentially. The demon may allow you to see a correct path for a puzzle, but then you'll need to memorize that path and then follow it as a mortal. The changing of characters is best seen within the larger boss fights. I was happy and both surprised with how the game had larger boss encounters that had a bit more going on than just smash on the enemy. The first main boss fight had traps along with other enemies to contend with and a surprise second form. I found myself continually changing between characters using different skills to defeat him. That is another neat aspect of the character swapping, is that attacks within the mortal realm cannot hurt the demon. So you can quickly switch to the demon to dodge some traps or reposition yourself. In some cases you can continually cheese the enemies as you attack them as a mortal, and then switch to a demon to be able to get to a different position and then continue attacking them. While the action and puzzle solving are great, I do think it's worth mentioning that you'll be doing a lot of inventory management with upgrading your characters and equipping them with the best gear. Since you have 4 characters that you control and your roster only continues to grow, this can be a lot of time spent in the menus. I enjoyed toying with my characters, but I know that some people aren't that much of a fan of being able to toy within those menus and just want to get to the action, so I wanted to mention it here. The game makes you think within its terms, and I like that. What I mean by that is you'll find yourself getting into the flow of considering that you have 2 realms to view as you're exploring. Since hidden paths reveal themselves within the Shadow Realm, that will become second nature for you to consider switching to just see if you can find something. The game does change by having a neat visual effect, but the act of switching can be really engaging, especially during a puzzle or especially during a combat encounter. Many times enemies will have shadow shields and you'll need to switch between your characters to fully defeat the enemies. And with this, I do think it was a missed opportunity to have optional drop-in local or online co-op. Have one player control the demon and one mortal, while the other player controls 2 mortal characters. Since different characters help you throughout the environments and the combat, communication would be key and really would help to create a compelling co-op experience. experience. I do think that would have been a great addition to this whole package. I also understand that need and want to be able to create a good single player game. But if they do consider co-op for a potential sequel, I don't want it to be at the expense of the single player experience. Now, while I enjoyed my time with the game, there are a few flaws. One being that on the PS4, I had the game crash on me several times. This got really aggravating as continuous crashes can just hurt anyone's momentum to be able to continue through the game. While playing it, I think I found that the crashes were in a way related to when you change your party. There are these stations that allow you to change up the 4 party members you have, and it seemed to be related to this. So my best bet is until this gets patched, save your game just before you change out your party members. I could go on for a while saying that this game is not the most impressive looking game, but I thought the visuals were functional and the lore and visual differences in the areas really helps them to stand out from each other. Another consistent but minor issue is related to the performance. For the most part, the action stays smooth and good, but the game can do this kind of few second stutter, and it's random when it happens. I've had it happen while I was walking, and I had it happen while I was in combat. I found this to be annoying in combat, but it didn't really bother me too much when it happened when I was walking around. It is annoying, but it never really went further than an annoyance, so it wasn't something that was hugely bothersome. There were some annoying visual glitches in the inventory screen, but these were minor, and some of the puzzle areas in the later part of the game can get annoying in that these sequences can kind of kill most of your party, or sometimes there's just a lot of confusion on how to tackle them. While these issues can hurt the experience, this is one that is very fun to play, plus I need to highlight the awesome main theme that plays at the main menu. Shadows Awakening is a fun action RPG, and in some ways I think it's a bit underrated and deserves more attention, and it's getting lost among all the other big fall releases. The unique take on the character swapping does bring something special here. The sense of discovery is high and engaging when you have 2 planes to view within the same area. Tackling puzzles that require your party as a means to complete them are both fun and challenging. The game's combat is at its most engaging when the fights demand that you switch between different party members to succeed. Shadows Awakening does have a few flaws, and I think future patches could really help out the performance and stability. But regardless, it is a fun single player game and one that you should definitely check out.